Well, good morning, everybody, and happy 2 days after Labor Day 2024. My name's Larry Jacobs, and I got a really nice show for you today. We have two former members of the Brown University Board of Trustees, Lauren Zalaznick and Dorsey James. And Lauren has edited a beautiful, beautiful book outlining with the letters from some of the former trustees at Brown University, and Dorsey is one of those, and we're going to get their thoughts about it and all that in this time. As higher ed is back to school now, obviously, all right, and it's a crazy time in higher ed. And tradition matters. And when you go back, everybody thinks today is all that matters. The kids today think that. But it's important for them to understand the history of what before. So when I got the opportunity, Lauren wrote me to see if we could come on the show and talk about the book, and Dorsey's here as well. I thought this would be a great time to talk about the state of higher ed, et cetera, using Brown as the example, Brown University in Providence. And again, because Columbia University, Dartmouth, they've all had challenges this year. Ivy League, Brown's in the Ivy League, so we'll see what's going on. So it's going to be a really nice show as we get their thoughts, talk about the book. If you're interested, they'll tell you how to get the book, et cetera, et cetera. But it's the lovely remembrance of a great school in crazy times that are today. So it's going to be a lot of fun to talk to them both. The show we're going to archive over at ace-ed.org. That, of course, is our home website. Go over there, see everything we've done in everything from pre-K education through college over the long period of time that we've been doing the podcast here on Education Talk Radio. Again, it's over at ace-ed.org. I'm Larry, as all my listeners know, but it's new to Lauren and Dorsey. Good morning to you, Lauren. Good morning, Dorsey. Let's start with Lauren. Good morning, Lauren.
Good morning from beautiful downtown New York City.
Yeah. Where is that? I've never heard of that. Where is that?
Never heard of that one. Yep. Mm-hmm.
No,
small town.
Tiny little town. Okay, and I'm glad you're there, and it's a beautiful day, I assume. I heard it was pretty hot there last week.
It's today's a new day. It's just a beautiful, crisp, truly a back to school kind of feeling day.
There you go. You go. And I want to introduce you. I want to give you a little bit more credit so everybody knows who you are. Lauren's amazing. She ran Bravo Media at Comcast, NBC Universal. She was named to the Time 100 list, okay? She was subject of a New York Times Magazine cover story. I love that. And your TED Talk has been viewed close to 1 million times, Lauren, okay? And you do on Substack the LZ, like Lauren Zalaznick, Sunday paper. So welcome to the show. Yep, and
Thank you.
I might add a graduate of Brown.
True enough. Yep, thank you.
True enough. You're welcome, and thanks for being here. Dorsey, you there?
Yes, sir. How are you doing?
How you doing? Call me Larry. Okay, how you doing, Dorsey?
Pretty good.
That's good. I have to ask you something. I have here, I did look it up. You were trustee till 2015, right? Is that right? Yeah, 2015 over at Brown. Okay, you're a 1983 Brown graduate. Congratulations on that. And are you still president of Score Entertainment?
Yes, I am. That's my little company that I operate my businesses out of.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And your businesses, well, you tell everybody. I have it here, but you tell everybody. I know you're an advisory business in the music industry. Want to say more than that? Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, sure. I ran a music label for a while out of Atlanta, and we were very successful, and we sold that company to Sony, and then I started my own business managing singers, songwriters, and producers, and subsequently started to advise smaller companies that were looking to raise capital to start their businesses in the music industry.
And what label did you have down in Atlanta? ATL?
Oh, it was called LaFace Records. You probably know some of our artists, Usher, Pink, Outkast, Tony Braxton, TLC.
So nobody big. I'm kidding. I'm kidding you. That's fantastic. Okay, and Dorsey, I must ask you this question. And if you've been asked this, pardon me for asking it as well. Okay, you're in the music business, and your name is
Yes.
Dorsey James. And turn that around, and it's James Dorsey, Jimmy Dorsey, the famous band leader from the. Did Mom and Dad do this on purpose to put you into the music industry?
No. Yes, it's Jimmy Dorsey backwards is what I tell many people who I meet. Those who would get the reference. But most of the kids don't even get that reference. I'm getting old.
Yes, I'm older than you. Okay, believe me. Okay, but I just thought it was amazing that you're in the music industry and you're Jimmy Dorsey backwards. Okay, I'm impressed. Okay, this is great. Now, and congratulations on all you have both done. Both of you, and I just want to say this, have given us a great deal of extremely entertaining media. And that's very important in a media-dominated world. So I just want to thank both of you for that, okay? And now you've taken your talents, both of you, okay? And Dorsey, I don't know if you were involved in the writing of the book, but I certainly know Lauren is, and she wanted you here today. Lauren, how does Dorsey fit in? Because I love having him here just as a guest to talk about the role of trustees, etc. But you are the, quote, editor-in-chief of the book. Talk about all this. The letters from the Corporation of Brown University. And I think it's extremely important to understand tradition, which sometimes gets lost in the news of literally the day. Lauren, talk about it. What brought it on? Go ahead.
Well, thank you. Well, part of the reason that let me explain the book a little bit. It has a very stuffy title, probably not the best marketing for two great marketers, but it's called Letters from the Corporation of Brown University, Lives of Usefulness and Reputation from 1764 to just last year, 2023. So it spans, about a 250-year period. And what I think is interesting about it is that these are resignation letters that trustees and fellows wrote over the course of 250 years, from the founders to very recent emeriti, that could have simply said, my term is over. Governance says you have to write a letter. I hereby resign. Instead, what I discovered through another quirk of Brown's governance is that not only are these letters written and submitted to the officers of the corporation, they are read out loud as each person's term is over, out loud, unedited, unrehearsed, in front of the 54-person corporation body.
Does the person who wrote the letter, did they read it aloud?
They hand it to the secretary, and the secretary reads it.
Thank you.
And so what started to happen, and this leads to why Dorsey is my first inspiration, is that you mentioned that Dorsey's term ended in 2015. My term ended in 2017. So that spring, Dorsey's was one of the letters read out loud. I had already been on the corporation for 3 years, midway through my term, and every year I thought to myself, wow, you'd expect, Brown trustees to be smart, they'd be a little witty, these letters went way beyond that. And the reason Dorsey's was so powerful is that I had known Dorsey as an undergrad. He was 83, I was 84. We had a couple people really.
You sound so much younger.
Oh, well, you know what? That's why it's a radio show, not a video show. And Dorsey's letter just set off a literal spark in my brain. And truly, 9 years ago, when I heard Dorsey's letter, and he knows this, I've shared it with him, it went from these letters are amazing to people outside of this room should have these letters shared with them. They are important for history. They're important for the future. They defy anyone to not cry, not laugh, not say, I identify with this person because their story is similar to mine, And more importantly, and that speaks to today's campus climate, I'm learning something that I have a shared history about with someone who I never expected to. And you know what? We all went home that spring, and I was on the corporation for several more years, and I had this idea every year, and it was not until the deep, dark days of COVID when I had a ton of time on my hands where I said, this country is in disharmony. When was the last time I had inspiration? When was the last time I thought that there was something to share that would unite us? And I thought back to the letters. I started the project, and almost 10 years later, our publication day was yesterday, and Dorsey was my inspiration.
But congratulations to both of you for that one. That's a good story, which begs the next question. Okay, I could ask Lauren. I'm going to ask Dorsey first. Dorsey, what did you say in that letter?
Thanks. Well, first of all, let's thank Lauren for putting together this project, which was a labor of love, right? A labor of love, and took some incredible research to put together. And the book that she put together is absolutely wonderful. For me,
it is. It's actually, you look through it. Okay, I got it right here on my desk right now, and it's just so. I'm not a Brown graduate. Okay, I live in New England. This is close, and every so often I go to Providence, but I'm not a Brown graduate. Okay, but I found it incredibly interesting just to read people's reflections of what it's like, because you can apply that across the board. I didn't mean to interrupt, but it is really a cool book. Go ahead.
Yeah, it reminds me of the movie Forrest Gump, right? You go through time periods. All these letters, like, really, really delineate these periods of time in American history and what was going on during those periods, and people speaking to that via their letters. So for my letter, it was a little different in that really I just outlined sort of my life and how the university affected my life and how important it was for me to try to give back to the university because of all the university did for me. You know, I was a very poor kid growing up in South Central Los Angeles, and the university admitted me and gave me financial aid, which allowed me to complete my education and go on to, you know, start a business, hire people. Those people sent their kids to college. So the things that the university did for me echoed with other people and allowed them to do the things in education that are so important. Because, you know, my core belief is that education is the ladder to pull people out of poverty.
Without question.
The university certainly gave me the opportunity to do that.
And I have to say something. I just want to say one thing. I agree with you on all that, Dorsey. And I want to say it's not just university education. You guys are going to agree with me. Okay, it's pre-K-12, and university education is the culmination, if I may, the professional side of education in terms of the students. That's where we're training them, okay, to become professionals, okay, in whatever they choose to be. But it's that pre-K-12 that matters. And on that note, I want to say, Dorsey, you said how nice it was, how good it was that the University Brown, okay, invited you in, admitted you back whenever. But you were a 1983 graduate. But, okay, don't sell yourself short, okay? You grew up in South Central LA. You got the grades. You made the effort. It was teachers back then, et cetera. I just want to congratulate you on getting far enough to have Brown admit you. And then the rest is history, so to speak. But don't sell yourself short, my friend. A lot of it is on you and your family, okay, all your success. Yeah. And I know you know that, but I just wanted to say that.
Well, I'm going to. Dorsey's a very humble person, so I'm going to accept and endorse and amplify how much Dorsey earned and continues to earn every step of his life, and how much he's affected. You know, I mean, obviously thousands by the artists he cultivated, but hundreds and hundreds and hundreds by the businesses he built, employed, and made, you know, their families able to sustain. But to the point of 12, it's so important, and maybe your audience especially focused on the high school experience today. One thing that comes through in the letters is over and over and over, kids who, I mean, this is like Dorsey, super successful professionals, CEOs, heads of banks, heads of venture funds, heads of education organizations, teachers, rabbis, people at the top of their professions think back to their high school experience in these letters. And like Dorsey, who not only came from a public high school in a, not what we think of as...
It wasn't let me put it this way, it was a good, but it wasn't an elite education. Okay, they went to public schools.
Not.
Okay, and look where they got to, and that's why I don't want to sell anyone short on that. It's so important. Yeah.
Right, and not to sell public schools short. You know, I was a public school K through 12 kid. Oh yeah, and you know, I kind of was at the other end of the spectrum at a, you know, very suburban, white, high tax base high school, very competitive. In my school, of you know, 364 kids in a class, we were ranked 1 to 364. We were expected to go to the best colleges. 65 people applied to Brown University, and still I got not such great guidance. There were 2 guidance counselors for 364 kids. You know, you had to make your way. There was no visiting schools before you applied. There was no, you know, 20 applications. I applied to 3 schools, you know, and so it was certainly a different time. But what the letters say is that no matter what the time, from the pre-war period of the 20th century to those who applied and got in the 2010s, that their on-ramp from their high schools had a big impact in how they approached the school, whether good or bad. There's first of all, in Dorsey's story, Dorsey, you refer to the fact that Brown took an application from you without the application fee. And someone said, I don't care, I'm going to read it anyway. And if I'm remembering correctly, Dorsey, you sent a money order with your tuition because you didn't have a checking account. So
wait, I got to ask something. Dorsey, you graduated in 1983, started in like 79. Do you remember what the application fee was back then? Just I put this into perspective for people.
I think I'm relatively certain. I think the application was $25.
Exactly.
I believe it was $25.
Yeah, because I remember you just brought up a memory, Lauren. I remember I applied to college. I applied to 1965. You can do the math, okay?
Yep.
I applied in 1965, and the cost to apply, okay, to the little school in Pennsylvania was $10. And I remember my father went nuts. $10 to apply?
Yep.
Right.
That's right. Just to apply. And what's so amazing?
I just want to put it in perspective to people today.
Well,
you know how it's just amazing. Yeah.
Here's some more perspective, which is really why I think that, you know, we're real old, you know, to students who are, you know, on campus today or in high school today. We're you know, more than their parents' age probably.
Oh yeah.
And you were a 65 grad, but I have a letter
from high school.
From high school. And I have a letter 20 years before you, and this person is a guy from South Boston. He is the first person in his family to go away to college. So, you know, before the phrase the very important and meaningful phrase "first generation" was, in the language, in the lexicon. I have a letter from someone who said, "Hey, I was a South Boston guy. I had no means to go to any school, and it was just the GI Bill in 1949, so again, almost 20 years before you, Larry, that provided the financial scaffolding for me to even think about it. And I worked as a university proctor, and I worked as a waiter when there were waiters in the early 50s in the fancier dining hall, and that's how I got through school." And then you have Dorsey, and then you have 2016 grad who said, I applied and didn't even know what financial aid was. And the school said, "You're welcome to come." And so think about generation after generation, instead of saying, "Hey, you don't understand my lived experience." My hope, Dorsey's hope, all of the trustees and fellows' hopes is that by sharing their stories, you actually build bridges and say, it may not be exactly the same experience, but you understand a piece of my life and my life's history, and therefore we can have an open channel on that dimension and hopefully others where we may not have thought there was a connection, because you don't look like me, you don't sound like me, you're not my age, you're not from the place I'm at, and every the letters are themed into chapters that kind of bring united thought, bridged experiences, theme by theme, chapter by chapter. And just the financial aid piece, the first gen piece, is a big part of the book.
It really is, and it is so darn important. And I have to say, Lauren, I'll stick with you, and then we can ask Dorsey, where do you expect the book to go? Okay, and I think this is important. I don't know if you're doing this, but to hand the book to or make sure that the kids that are coming in this year know this book exists, so they can get a sense, or maybe when they graduate, to hand them the book. I don't know how to say it, but the point is, you said an interesting thing a few minutes ago. You said the book builds bridges. And that's what really history is all about. You have to understand. If you don't know where you've been, you don't know where the heck you're going. Okay, and it's important for people. I'm an old history teacher, so I'm harping on this now. Okay, but my point is, all right, when you build the bridge to the past, you're actually building one to the future, because people can see that other people have been in the same situation, and like Dorsey, like you, and look how far you've gone. Okay, it's just it's absolutely incredible. Where's the book stand in terms of that relationship to today's students? Let's just say at Brown. How do you want it to work? And Dorsey, you feel free to join in, for goodness sakes. Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. I think what's interesting is that there's a difference between, in my view, appreciating history, a shared set of values, a mission, a vision, and trying to uphold that, which this 54-member body of the corporation has done for 250 years. And there are real disagreements, there are real debates, and because of this very clearly articulated shared set of values and mission for Brown originally stated, it comes together through incremental decision-making that's called leadership. Part of that is over the academic and social and political upheavals of each era. Part of that is understanding the respect for the history and traditions that have come before you, but also adapting, changing, shifting to the challenges of today, and hopefully anticipating what we might have to grapple with in the future. So that's how I view history, is not a sacrosanct, we can't change anything, but a respect for what's been working and how to unite around a vision. Where do we want the book to go? Well, Graydon Carter's Airmail, in a great review, did us a big service, and I use this quote now, and they said, hey, if this book doesn't sound like it's for you, you're wrong, pure and simple. And so that's pretty good. I don't have to sell it. They're selling it for me.
Good.
What the first goal is really to get beyond the Brown community, because it is amazing for human beings. Let's just say our broadest audience is human beings. It is really important for K through 12 educators to kind of see example after example and give language to their students, 10th, 11th, 12th grade. A lot of people who are very, very, very successful now really thought they had no place in a place like Brown, whether it was financial, whether it was geographical.
To go there,
yeah. And so these letters for, especially K through 12, especially high school educators, should give them a language to talk about how you might fit in after all. And so I wanted really to be, we had a big launch yesterday. We were #1 bestseller in the history of education category on Amazon. That was a big deal.
Oh, nice.
I really wanted it to get to the history and education community. And then I think you're 100% right. I think this is a great book for entering students. I think this is especially a great book for graduating students and parents and alums of all colleges and people who really care about how to look at the undergraduate experience, and then 5, 10, 30 years later, how people kind of reconcile, the old David Byrne song, how did I get here? That is a theme, and that also relates, as Dorsey knows from reading the book, directly to the campus climate of today. Letter after letter, long before this past year, says, I can't believe they put me on this corporation. Did they realize that I was one of those kids protesting outside this room? And that kind of where did I come from? How did I get here? Is another real connection point for today's kids.
It really
is good, Dorsey. Yeah. Good.
I was just chime in and say, look, everything I did prior to Brown, everything I did educationally was through public education. I paid for nothing. Every morsel of information, every bit of data I accumulated was through public education, K through 12. So I'm a huge fan of public education. And the ability to go to Brown and my desire to go to Brown really was teachers, right, that I had in the K through 12. One was a history teacher. And I will never forget the first day of class when he said, you know what history is? He said, there's a woman and a guy walks into the room and kills her. And you say, wow, that guy should be killed. But what you didn't know was that woman had planted a nuclear bomb and was ready to set it off, right? You didn't know the history behind the act. So until you understand history, you don't understand people's motivation.
You don't move. Yeah, that's a very, very good point. And I want to ask you, Dorsey, you're an African-American gentleman. Am I correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and you were president of the Inman Page. I don't know who that is. The Inman Page. You might have been the first African-American at Brown, for all I know.
That's correct.
Is he?
First that African-American graduate.
That was a guess.
Yep.
That was a guess. Okay. When did he graduate, by the way? Do you know offhand?
I forget the year. I apologize. I forgot.
Very, very early. very, very early, of over 100 years ago. Yeah.
Thank you. That puts it in perspective, okay? There's on campuses everywhere right now, they're cutting back on DEI programs. And you guys saw the New York Times like I did, where black enrollment at all the colleges, okay, except for the HBCUs, is really, really down. Okay? Right. In other words, African-American kids are feeling uncomfortable, so to speak, obviously, okay, on a traditional campus. All right? And I'm just curious, from your point of view, and you're there, okay? How do we correct that? This is important, and I think that's where I think this history comes in. Okay, it's so darn important for them to understand everybody's welcome. Look at you, for goodness sakes. Okay, but just talk about that from your point of view. Okay, we got to do something about that.
From my point of view, we kind of get back to the law, right? It's the Supreme Court that made this decision, and I was an engineer at Brown, so I think in terms of statistics a lot and how things work. And, the Supreme Court is saying, hey, if you look at these first generation and or minority students differently, you're somehow discriminating. And I just look at the numbers. Just look at the numbers. There's some reason why you don't have equivalent numbers of African Americans and Hispanic Americans going into colleges. There's something driving that. It's not normal. That is, the world tends to work on normal curves, right? This is not a normal curve. There's something wrong. Just at a very, very basic level, what that is wrong, I'm not sure. I don't know. But I do know that it's not going to fix itself, right? There's going to have to be some action, some policy action to correct it.
I want to amplify what Dorsey's saying and say, this is sort of a time, in my opinion, where we're not living through a time of nuance or examination. Things are, kind of wielded as kind of blunt force instruments. And what I believe as a white woman is that the law is the law, and we are navigating through, and Brown is navigating through what exactly the law means and what exactly makes Brown Brown. And what I can say is that advocacy and data align through this evidence of the letters of the Corporation of Brown University.
Thank you.
A through line from straight white males, from women of color, from our first Hispanic woman trustee, really align. A guy called Tom Rothman says, I hope that the corporation will continue to seek a wide-ranging and diverse mix of backgrounds and viewpoints in its future membership. It is through the fires of divergence, not the comforts of homogeneity, that this storied institution shines the brightest. Now,
when did he write that, Lauren? When did he write that?
He wrote that in the 2010s. He's a 1976 grad. He happens to be a white man. Carmen Rodriguez, who graduated in Dorsey's class, actually,
83.
In 83, said, we must move from the judgment of others by our own standards past the toleration of difference to support the diverse views and goals. And she was quoting a guy called Maurice Glicksman, who was the provost in the 80s. And so time after time in these letters, it is people who wake up at one point in their life or another and have been enriched by people who don't think like them, who don't come from the same place as them, and who don't look like them. And so, with the fact that diversity has become this literal black and white or brown and white issue does everyone a disservice. Again, in my view, I wonder what Dorsey thinks, where the sum total of dimensionality as a definition of diversity is really what drives the benefits and is demonstrable in the education cycles. And it's palpable on Brown's campus. I just can't speak to other institutions as deeply, but that's my opinion, and that's the data as shared in this book of letters.
And I think it's wonderful. We have about, I think, 3 or 4 minutes left, and I want to ask Dorsey, let me ask you this, okay? Again, former, we'll see, I go currently of a big music entertainment group, okay? The Board of Trustees, okay, and just answer this generically, although we're talking specifically about Brown, did you feel that the Board of Trustees, and this is an odd question, really mattered in terms of getting the university to where you want to do? The Board of Trustees seems to be way up there, okay, up in the clouds like Olympus, looking down upon the campus. But they have, right. They really do have an impact. And did you feel, not just you, but the time you were on the board, that the Board of Trustees really mattered in terms of running the university? We got about 2 or 3 minutes. You'd probably need 2 or 3 hours to answer that. But
right. Well, let me answer that quickly in 2 ways. One, the letters speak to how average people who, got to the university in these very, very mundane types of ways, like myself, ended up on the board, right? Ended up on the board. And then we say, how did we get there? But once we were there, and once everybody who's really, regular people, they happen to have these incredible jobs and incredibly successful, but the corporation, in my view, when I was there, and all the people I've come in contact with, like Laura, were good people who wanted to contribute to society as a whole. The university was just an instrument. How do we, contribute to the university to make society a better place? And with that view, everyone had a common goal. And, of course, we had incredible differences, but the goals are good. Are always the same.
Yeah, differences are good because you get different perspectives. I think it's really good. Yeah, it really does matter, and history matters, and it all matters, and it comes together. And when you have a successful college experience, and you two are classic examples, look at the success you have from that point on. Okay? And this is why this all matters. It all comes together. And this just isn't, as Dorsey was saying, it's not just Ivy League. Okay? Brown's just an example. This matters across the board. Okay? So choose your higher ed carefully and direct your students to a good higher ed where they be. Now, I want to ask you both a question. Lauren, Dorsey, you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, what are you doing? What are you doing on November 16th at noon? Dorsey?
November 16th at noon? Probably eating lunch. I don't know.
No, but Lauren, have you thought about this?
Saturday, November 16th.
Yes.
Am I missing a big date, or Dorsey and I not aware of a...
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Okay, let me explain. You're both in New York. Okay? And November 16th at noon, that's when Brown plays Columbia this year.
Oh, boy.
Oh, wow.
What is wrong with me? I can't believe this is not blocked out on my Google Calendar. This is
November
absolutely
16th.
A travesty.
Okay.
Yes, that's right.
So
yep, I'm a subway ride away. You're 100% right. Yep.
In Dorsey, you can grab a hot dog at the stadium, which I think is, at 180th Street or something? They play way up north.
Yeah. Exactly right.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
Correct.
Yep.
I've been to that game one time.
Enjoy the game, all right? And you two are wonderful. I wish you best of luck with this. You really bring a great perspective to what higher ed's all about. I got to tell you, it's so darn important. Okay,
hey,
thank
Larry,
you, Lauren.
I would love it if people go to Amazon.com or their local bookstore and look for anything under my name, Lauren Zalaznick, or Letters from the Corporation of Brown University.
Brown University,
it's
which
wonderful.
I forgot to mention.
Yes.
I'll make sure it's linked on here. Okay, no problem. Okay, thank you both so very much. Have a great day, and I'll think of you November 16th. Good luck.
Can't wait. Thank you, Larry. Bye-bye now.
Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. What a fun show. This was just great. What two wonderful people, I got to tell you. That was Dorsey James, okay, and Lauren Zalaznick, both former trustees. Lauren's the editor-in-chief of Letters from the Corporation of Brown University, which applies to everywhere. Good stuff and well thought out, and just a nice thought. We're going to archive the show over at ace-ed.org. Okay, thank you both. Thank you, everybody, for listening. My name's Larry Jacobs. We're going to archive at ace-ed.org and tell your friends. Buy the book. Talk to you later. Thanks.